Yada viniyatam chittam Atmani evavatishthate Spruha sarva kamebhyo Yukta iti uchyate tada. Yada viniyatam chittam Atmani evavatishthate Spruha sarva kamebhyo Yukta iti uchyate tada. Yada viniyatam chittam Atmani evavatishthate Spruha sarva kamebhyo Yada viniyatam chittam Atmani evavatishthate Nispruha sarva kamebhyo Yukta iti uchyate tada. Online.
Yada viniyatam chittam.
Yada viniyatam. Synonyms. Yada, when. Viniyatam, particularly disciplined. Chittam, the mind and its activities. Atmani, in the transcendence. Eva, certainly. Avadishthate, becomes situated. Nispruha, devoid of. Sarva, all kinds of. Kamebhyaha, material desires. Yuktaha, well situated in yoga. Iti, thus. Uchyate, is said to be. Tada, at that time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: when the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. Translation with repetition: when the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. The perfectional stage can automatically be attained by persons in Krishna consciousness, as is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.18 to 20. Savai manah Krishna padara vindayor vacham sivaikuntha gunanuvarnane karo harer mandiramarjanadisho shrutim chakarachyuta satkathodaye Mukundalingalaya darshane drasho tadbhritya gatra sparshayanga sangamam grahanam cha tatpada saroja saurabhe Srimad Tulasya rasanam tadarpite Pado hare kshetra padanusarpane Shiro hrishikesha padabhinandane Kamam cha dasya natu kama kamya Yathottama shloka janashrayaratihi. King Ambarish first of all engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one after another he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, his hands in mopping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing of the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense of smell and smelling the scents of the lotus flower offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulasi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going to places of pilgrimage and the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. This transcendental stage may be inexpressible subjectively by the followers of the impersonalist path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of the engagements of Maharaj Ambarish. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. In the devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called archana, or engaging all the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind require engagements. Simply abnegation is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially the mind as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind, as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Omagyanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Today is the first day of our new year, and we have this wonderful verse which has come on its own. Not that I have planned for this, but so relevant for today's context and settings. So if you see the title of this verse of this class today is Transcendental Achievement, and if you're wondering where did this word come from, pay attention to the last line of this purport. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life. So you see, Prabhupada is just the genius of Prabhupada. For people in general, who are the general people? Are they the ones who are in renounced order of life? No. Renounced order of life is pretty minimal. Majority of the people are in Grihastha life or in householder life. Whether that is a Grihastha, Grahamati is secondary. But therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind, as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement. So this is the perfect process for transcendental achievement. You see, the word achievement is used when you have achieved something in life, right? And here Prabhupada is writing, for people in general, this is considered to be transcendental achievement. What is the transcendental achievement? If they are able to engage the senses and the mind as described above. So let us see what this verse is all about and what wonderful purport Prabhupada has and what practical application it has for our lives, for all of us. So the title is Transcendental Achievement. Just to give you a summary, the chapter is called Ashtanga Yoga, which is not at all easy, though the acronym is easy. And the first section of that is Enemy or Friend, where we discussed about our own mind, which can be our best friend or the worst enemy, depending upon how we are using it. Unfortunately, if we are ignorant, ignorance is not a bliss, is not an excuse. It remains as our enemy forever. That says in Bhagavad Gita. That's a pretty scary thing. Imagine your worst enemy living with you 24/7. That's what happens to us, but we don't realize, or we don't take any measures to check that. Then the chapter talks about Ashtanga Yoga, which we have been seeing. And this is continuing the process of Ashtanga Yoga. What is the process? How do we, we go to a secluded place, practice celibacy, sit in a place which is not too high, not too low, meditate on the tip of the nose, eyes half closed. All these things we have seen. And in the last few verses, we were seeing how we need to regulate our activities, the bodily activities. The yantra that is given to us also has a necessity. It cannot be neglected. And there is a regulation which is required to achieve that spiritual perfection. And of course, there is success and failure, which will come a little later about what if a person doesn't achieve the success which is destined to in this process and meets with failure, what happens to him and who's the topmost yogi. So the objective of this verse, as we can see in this last line of the verse where it is mentioned, yukta iti uchyate tada. Right. So interestingly, I have told this earlier also, any words in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, any Sanskrit words, if you find the word yada, look out for tada. Or you find a tada, then look for the yada. Yatha, then there has to be a tatha. Right? Dehinosmin yatha dehe, komaram yoganam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namukhyati. So it is if and then, something like that. So yukta iti uchyate tada. Tada is then. So he is said to be well established in yoga. Who's that he? That person who's doing certain things, he is considered to be well established in yoga. Tada. But to be well established in yoga, or to be who is considered to have attained the perfection, he should have done certain things, as is mentioned in this verse. And what are those things that he should have done? We will see that in this verse. Very, very powerful verse. So Krishna is telling the first line of this verse, Yada viniyatam chittam. Yada viniyatam chittam. When the first condition is yada viniyatam chittam, when the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities. The word which Krishna uses here is called viniyatam. Viniyatam means who is disciplining. Now, if you have, any one of you have access to Bhagavad Gita, can you read 18.9? Can anybody read 18.9? Can you read loudly? Just let me know who wants to read.
The shloka or the translation, Prabhu?
Both.
Acha. Karanam iti eva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tektva palam chaiva satyaga satviko mata. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. But he who performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is of the nature of goodness, O Arjuna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
No.
Okay.
No. Only the verse in the translation. Thank you. So the reason I asked you to read this is this word niyatam is used in this verse. Karyam iti eva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna. And niyatam is the word meaning of that has been given by Prabhupada as prescribed. But he who performs his prescribed duty. And read again 18.23. Anybody else?
Yes, Prabhu. Niyatam sangarahitam araga dveshatah kritam aphala prepsuna karma yattat satvikam uchyate. Translation. As for actions, that action in accordance with duty, which is performed without attachment, without love or hate, by one who has renounced fruitive results, is called action in the mode of goodness.
Thank you. So the word again, niyatam, is used here and it is translated as a regulative. So the word niyatam, wherever is used, especially in the 18th chapter, you'll find many mentions, not just these two verses. Maybe in 18.47 also it is mentioned. And it is always referring to discipline, regulation, prescribed. That kind of the meaning of that the word is there. But here Krishna is using viniyatam, which is vishesha rupena niyatam. So you have to regulate, you have to discipline. There is a prescribed thing which is there. And what is that prescribed thing which Krishna is referring to? Yada viniyatam chittam. Now here, one very important aspect in this translation on the word-to-word meaning, which we need to pay attention, is this word yada viniyatam chittam, where Prabhupada is writing, when the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities. Usually when we say activities, we think some activities that we are doing by our limbs, by our bodily parts. But there are activities in the mind, which includes thinking, feeling, and willing. And we are thinking, that thinking also is an activity. Feeling, we are feeling something, that is also an activity. We are willing, we are desiring something in our mind. Maybe we're not doing anything, but this thinking, feeling, and willing is also an activity, mental activity. And Krishna is telling one has to discipline this. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities. First, most important point which I want you to pay attention. Actually, it's a beautiful verse, beautiful verse. But when we see this closely, then we can appreciate this more. How important it is to have the right thoughts, the right feelings, the right willing in life. If we don't have that, or if we don't discipline, or we allow any thoughts to come in our mind and dwell on them, and it can lead to havoc. So discipline, when the word discipline is used, wherever this word comes, there is a discipline which is supposed to be followed over distractions. Where do you want to discipline yourself? You don't want to get distracted from something. So what is distraction? Let's see this video. It's a very interesting video.
systems have failed. Are you afraid? All the things, all the loss, can you say? Are you lost in the world like me? Like me?
Actually, this guy is a remarkable person, Steve Kurtz. Yesterday I was showing that video of happiness. Today I'm showing about this distraction. This is what is our life, in this ages, where people are so distracted. There is no question of sitting in one place. Every time we need some titillation, some agitation, and the mind is so restless, cannot sit in one place. So in that kind of a situation, in that kind of a circumstances where, when we know which things are important for us, yet we are not able to focus, especially when it comes to taking the names of the Lord, chanting the names of the Lord, they're so distracted. Unfortunately, even our next generation, we give them all these gadgets for time being, thinking that, they are not disturbing us, let them be busy and engaged with those gadgets, and, we feel happy or relieved. But actually, this is leading to some, misdirected lives. Later on, what happens in life is when these children grow up, their mind is exposed to so many unwanted things. The attention span is very, very low. They don't listen. There is nothing that, goes in their brain. Why to blame them? Even, all of us, when we are, taking this much of information, addicted to this digital thing, there's a detox which is required, right? And that keeps people so distracted. That is why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is telling this Viniyatam, Yada Viniyatam Chittam. And earlier, if you remember in 3rd chapter, in the 30th verse, the verse is beautiful verse. And Prabhupada says this is clearly indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirasir nirmamo bhutva yuddhasva vigatachvara. You see, the word, why I'm bringing this verse, because in the purport, Prabhupada says this verse is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, and then he says the Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. The word is military discipline. When we allow chalta hai, I can do anything that I like. I have been practicing, I know it. I don't need to attend classes. I don't need to do certain things which I've been told. I'm doing, no, it's okay. I'm doing my 16 rounds. I can take decisions on my own. I don't need to consult. I can take liberty on my own. We are actually digging our own graveyard. It's a matter of time when we will fall into that. Why Krishna and Prabhupada is writing here that the Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. I told the word here used as viniyatam, right? The verse that I spoke, Mai Sarvani Karmani, Sanyasya Adhyatma Chetasa, Nirasir Nirmama Bhutva Yuddhasva Vigatachvara. There are a lot of distractions which hold us back, which doesn't allow us to engage in Krishna's service 100%. The reason, the effect of that is we don't get the taste of being in Krishna conscious. We feel empty, void, do it as a matter of duty, as a burden, as it can go to, you lose the taste of Krishna consciousness because we are not disciplined. That is why the word discipline is very important. Actually, in one place, Prabhupada is saying that because of repeated practice, systematically doing certain things over a period of time, we have been conditioned to this material world, systematically doing. Now we have to unlearn that process systematically. Again, we have to do. That's why this is called sadhana bhakti, where the discipline is very, very important. If I give some justification that my situation is like this, my body doesn't permit, my mind doesn't permit, my family doesn't permit, my situations don't permit, hence I didn't do. Actually, it is a trip. It's a trap of Maya. It's a trick of Maya, where Maya is tricking you. It's okay. It's okay if you do that. It's okay to do that. After all, you have done so many other important things. If you don't do, it's fine. And then we fall into that trap. So What I want you to, okay, the very two most important thing in our life is our mind and our words. Our mind and words, what we speak. Actually, the thoughts lead to words. When we constantly think about something, if we are lamenting or if we are having some grudging, it comes out in the words. And when it comes out in the words, it leads to even further problems. So very, very important to control these two things, mind and words. I found this beautiful verse, which I had never seen earlier in Bhagavatam today. The verse says, Yo vaivan manasi samyak asamyakshan dhyayatihi tasya bratam tapodanam shravati atma ghatambu bhat. The translation is very, very beautiful. A transcendentalist who does not completely control his words and mind by superior intelligence will find that his spiritual vows, austerities, and charity flow away just as water flows out of unbaked clay pot. You see, if somebody is not controlling his mind and words, two things, mind and words, if it is not controlled, if we don't know, when we are living in an assembly of Vaishnavas, if our words are uncontrolled, then it is mentioned that it is like a unbaked clay pot. An unbaked clay pot cannot carry the water. It will not be able to hold because it is unbaked. A clay pot, when it is baked, can hold the water. But if a transcendentalist who does not completely control his words and mind by superior intelligence will find that his spiritual vows, austerities, and charity flow away. It will seep through, flow away just as water flows out of an unbaked clay pot. Without realizing, the pot would have become empty. And that is why, in the example which Prabhupada gives in today's verse, is that of Ambarish Maharaj. Savai Manah Krishna Padaravindayo. The first thing that Ambarish Maharaj does is engages his mind in Krishna's lotus feet. Savai Manah Krishna Padaravindayo. Actually, it's not a joke. It's not a trick, or it's not some kind of, it's a very scientific thing. First thing he's telling Mana. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo. First is Mana, and then the next one important is words. Vacham Sivaikuntha Gunanuvarnan. In Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, when Arjuna had asked this question of Sthita Prajna Sya ka bhasa samadhistasya keshava, Sthitadhir kim prabhaseta kimashita brajeta kim. The first thing which Krishna begins to speak when he says, in response to this question, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partho manodata. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partho manodata. These desires, these things which are produced, these justifications, these things that coming out of mind, get rid of this. Just throw them away. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogata. Atmani evatmana tushta sthita pragyasya tadochya. And further, he says, if our mind even is focusing on one of the senses, then it will drive us away like a boat which is unanchored. By the wind, it gets blown away. Similarly, if the mind focuses on one of the senses, can drag us away completely. Imagine the situation of a generation who are exposed to so much of this internet and all these things which was not there earlier, and we are constantly feeding them. Yes, okay, you see this cartoon, you see that, you see this, and we feed their mind. So many impressions are stored in their mind. Automatically, mind becomes very distracted. Where is the question of even chanting the names of the Lord? When it comes to chanting the names of the Lord, somewhere the mind has gone. That is why people can't even sit in one place. They can't even forget about even sitting for a class for half an hour, 45 minutes, 15 minutes you talk, the mind is everywhere, except for the place where it should be there. This is what, our precarious condition. And if we don't take care, if we don't discipline, if we don't know the techniques, if we don't pay attention to these words, then the process of devotional service is not even followed, and it is an offense to be inattentive while chanting. And that offensive chanting never melts our heart. And the offenses increases. When you continue doing the offenses, And one leads to another offense, and another offense leads to another. So it becomes a very careless, it's gone. The life is a very chaotic life. It all starts with Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda. If we are serious, we should know how to control our mind. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayor Bachansi Vaikuntha Unanuvarnam. How do we do that? And what is the method? Why it is so important? Let's just see. Again, from the same, actually this whole thing which is given here by Ambarish Maharaj is something which is taken from the 64 principles, which 64 are bare minimum, which Rupa Goswami says. And they are very, very important. Mind you, when we take a vow of initiation, we just say that I'll follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds. We don't say that we are doing other things, but those other things are also part of sadhana bhakti. They are very important. Unfortunately, we don't know, or we don't want to know, or we ignore, or we don't take sufficient care of those. So what happens is our devotional life soon becomes chaotic. It lacks that taste, it lacks that vigor, it lacks that bliss, it lacks that conviction, and it becomes just a monotonous, boring, grudging life, and then there is no happiness in that. So let us just see. First important thing is to have the beautiful darshan of the Lord. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor, when Ambarish Maharaj, he used to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai Mana, his mind was attracted to the lotus feet of the Lord. When we come to the temple, when we are having the darshan of the Lord, how much time are we spending? How much time we are spending in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord, in focusing the feet of the Lord, and how important it is to do that. I've spoken about this verse very nicely earlier, a beautiful verse of Chitraketu Maharaj when he has the darshan, and so wonderful purport by Prabhupada. Tad darshana dvasta samasta kilvisha swastha malanta karanu bhayan munihi prabruddha bhaktya pranaya shrulochana prahrushta roma namadadi purusham. Very beautiful words, actually. When Chitraketu Maharaj, being instructed by Narad Muni, understands that no relative, nobody is his, and he has that realization, he chants one mantra which is given by Narad Muni very sincerely, and gets the opportunity to meet the Lord. And when he has the darshan, this is what happens. Tad darshana dvasta samasta kilvisha. Actually, the darshan of the Lord is so auspicious, so good. Because just by having the darshan of the Lord, dvasta samasta kilvisha. Prabhupada says in the purport, actually, as soon as Maharaj Chitraketu saw the Supreme Lord, he was cleansed of all material contamination and situated in his original Krishna consciousness, being completely purified. So the word here used is dvasta samasta kilvisha. He became complete, he was cleansed of all material contamination. And he was situated in his original Krishna consciousness, being completely purified. Tad darshana dvasta samasta kilvisha. Swastha amala antakarana. So swastha becomes healthy, amala becomes pure, antakarana, the core of his heart. Actually, it is the core of the heart which needs to be cleansed, marjana. And that became swastha, healthy and pure. Swastha and amala antakarana. Bhyan Muni, Abhyayat Muni. And he became silent. The king who was silent due to mental satisfaction. Prabhupada clarifies this. This is not the silence of the impersonalists. He became silent. That means he didn't talk anything other than Krishna or the glories of Krishna. He became silent and grave. This is what happens when somebody properly has darshan of the Lord. Otherwise, the Lord may appear like some wood or metal or some stones. But when one has sufficiently heard, and when he comes and have the darshan of the Lord, then as it is mentioned, what can you do? He is the Supreme Lord, the Jagatar, he's the Natha of the Jagat, he's the master of the whole universe. And what is my position? So tiny. So he became silent and grave. And because of love for the Lord, tears fell from his eyes. Prabruddha bhaktya pranayashru lochana. Started tears coming from his eyes. And his hair stood on end. Prahrushta roma. With great devotion and love, he offered his respectful obeisances unto the original personality of God. Purport has 3 lines. And Prabhupada clarifies here that the word Tad Darshana Dvasta Samasta Kilvisha is very important in this verse. And he says, if one regularly sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the temple, mind you, regularly, one will gradually be disinfected of all material desires. One will be disinfected of all material desires by visiting the temple and seeing the deity. When one is freed from all the results of sinful activities, one will be purified. So this material desires, unless they are completely gone, here also in this verse it is mentioned, Nispruha Sarva Kamebhya. Sarva Kame, all kinds of material desires has to go. Nispruha, devoid of material desires. So that can happen when somebody sees the Lord properly, sumptuously, to the heart's content. Then only the impressions of the Lord, if you ask someone, what is the color of the dress that the deities are wearing? Usually it is very difficult for people to even recollect. Even though in our case, we change the deity's dress once in 15 days, still, what dress he was wearing, it's not such an easy question. So if one regularly sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the temple, one will gradually be disinfected of all material desires simply by visiting the temple and seeing the deity. When one is freed from all the results of sinful activities, one will be purified, and with a healthy mind, completely cleansed, he will increasingly make progress in Krishna consciousness. So when one is freed from all the results of sinful activities, one will be purified, and with a healthy mind, completely cleansed, he will increasingly make progress in Krishna consciousness. I want to tell you a story from Akbar. It's a very wonderful story. So when Akbar, once he was going in his kingdom in disguise, he was not wearing his royal robe and he was going. Then he found that there was one man who was digging a big hole. And he was very curious to see that, what is this man trying to do? Why is he digging this hole? So he asked him, he went close to him and he asked him, my dear fellow, what are you doing? So the man responded that this is mere sand. That is what you think of. But actually there are gold particles mixed in here. So I sift the sand and in the process, I'm hoping that I'll find the gold particles. And if I find the gold particles, I will sell them. And this is my livelihood. So when he said that, Akbar felt great pity for this man. That he's working so hard for a few particles of gold that he might or might not find. So when he was still standing there, this man went back to his work, continued digging and throwing this mud or the sand particle. Very intently, very seriously, very sincerely. And when the man was not looking at Akbar, Akbar removed a bracelet, a golden bracelet, and he threw it on the mound of sand and he just left from that place. Then again, Akbar went the next day to the same place. And to his utter surprise, Akbar could not believe his eyes when he saw that the man was shifting as before. And then Akbar asked him, my dear fellow, I heard a rumor that yesterday you found a bracelet, a precious gold bracelet. So you could have sold it and you could have taken care of your family for the rest of your life. Why are you still here? And the man said something which is very interesting, which is a lesson. The man actually smiled and said, my dear sir, I do this work constantly. Because I do it constantly. Yesterday my efforts bore fruits. And I received a jewel-studded bracelet. Who knows? If I keep at it, I may receive something that is worth even more. So I must be constant at this. What is the moral of the story? What am I trying to say? Actually, there is an important lesson from this story. If we stand firmly behind our principles, our goals, distractions come when there is a goal. If there is no goal, just simply doing because you are asked to do, you're fearful of someone, you're just doing, but you don't know really why you are. But if you're convinced, if the goal of our life is to go back home, back to Godhead in this life, by following the instructions of our dear spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, then, if that goal is fixed, then there could be distractions. And if there are distractions that you are experiencing in your mind and your words and other things, then there is a need to become disciplined. So the important lesson from here is, if we stand firmly behind our principles and goals, then we are able to experience the fruits. Actually, the word constant, when I was looking in Oxford Dictionary, it comes from the word constare. Constare. Constare, to stand firm. So to stand firm on something. So the suffix stare in the Latin word constare comes from the Sanskrit root third. This is what is the Oxford Dictionary says, which again means to stand firm. So in our life also, we all expect and appreciate the constancy in our lives, right? So if there is a marital relationship, people celebrate their 50th anniversary because the husband and wives, they have been staying together for such a long time. They appreciate each other's service and understanding. In a teacher-student relationship, or in a company, if somebody spends 5 years, 10 years, they award that employee for loyalty by giving him a long-term service award, right? So automatically, somebody who's doing this, we are delighted. We appreciate and respect that. And if you see in our day-to-day life, in this earth or in this universe, there are stars, there are planets, there are rising sun. So everything, there is a constancy. There are seasons which change in due time. There are flowers which, the trees bear these flowers and fruits in particular time. Everything happens very constantly. So if in the world that we are seeing, if in the material world itself, there is so much of constancy, right? Then what to speak? Even if you don't appreciate the outside world, in our body, the heart is constantly pumping the blood, right? There is a constant coming in and going out. Absence of constancy or regularity makes people lose faith and confidence. And somebody is not, someday he shows up, someday he doesn't show up. Someday he'll be there, someday you can't predict anything. So absence of constancy or regularity makes people lose faith and confidence. And it leads to agitation, misunderstanding, and thus leaves a trail of bad consequences. If constancy is so important materially, think how much more so it should be spiritual. That is why our scriptures are telling Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Every day here. No, you can't take a shortcut. I'll not hear, I'll do something, my wish, I don't show up, I'll do some. Who gave us this authority? That's actually the trick of Maya. Or I think I don't need to, there is a system which has been established. Let it be there. I'll do what I feel like. I think I'm good at that, I'll do that. I don't need to ask anyone. I don't need to ask. It is not that, this is somebody's superior ego or somebody is trying to impose or boss upon someone. No, this system is good for us, for our own good. Otherwise, this mind and that trick of Maya is so subtle, very easy to get carried away, very easy to develop a hard heart, which cannot be even melted by chanting of the names of the Lord. Cannot be melted, because this is offense against holy name, offense against Vaishnavas. It's so many things are interlinked in that. Constancy, that is why the military-like discipline Prabhupada is saying. We understand from the scriptures that our existence at every moment is dependent on the supreme mercy of Krishna. He is there in our heart as Paramatma, as our eternal, ever well-wishing friend. Irrespective of which body we are in, the Super Soul always is accompanying us. And he's also constantly trying how we can come out of this mire of material existence, mire of Maya. That is why the second line is Atmani eva Patisthate. Atmani eva avatisthate. To fix our mind on the Super Soul. Super Soul is nothing but Krishna. Atmani eva avatisthate is required. So, having said this, the constancy which I wanted to bring from this story, I want to tell you this nice verse from Bhagavatam where it is mentioned, Etadhi atura chittana matra sparse chayamuhu bhava sindhu plavo drushto haricharyanuvarnam. This verse I have explained many times, but if you see this verse, there is a particular thing which I have highlighted from the translation. It is personally experienced by me. This is Narad Muni telling to Vyasadeva that those who are always full of cares and anxieties, that's all of us, etadhi atura chittanam. Why we are full of anxieties and cares? Because of desiring contact of the senses with their objects. That is matra sparshe chaya muhu. Constantly we are desiring. With their objects can cross the ocean of nations on a most suitable boat. Bhava sindhu plavadrushto. We can cross over this ocean of nations by a most suitable boat. Plavo is referring to that boat. What is that boat? Haricharya Anuvarnanam. The word that is used there in the translation is the constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of God. There is a repetition which is required in our life, constantly hearing. We are not pure. We have not come to that stage. Let our mind not shut off, saying that, no, you don't need to listen. This is only Bhagavad Gita. This is only Bhagavata. You know more. Actually, we don't know anything. That is why the constant, you see actually one of the things which we can see in this prayers, in this Vaishnava songs, by the exalted great Vaishnavas, they think, what is our life? Actually, their life is 100% pure. They are doing everything far better than ours. There is no comparison. They are in an elevated spiritual platform, but yet they think that my heart is filled with all anarthas, all unwanted things. I become happy at others' miseries, paradukha sukhi, and all those. They have so humility, but there are all of us who do not have any qualities, who do not have any understanding of Krishna consciousness, yet we are very puffed up. And therefore, I'm an initiated, first initiated, second initiated. I've been initiated for so long. I don't need to hear. I don't need to read. We are actually, these are all traps of Maya. Constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of God. Beautiful lecture by Prabhupada. I want you to see this ocean. This is the ocean of nations, where everybody in this world is ignorant. That's why it is Prabhupada says ignorance is bliss. What is that? It is folly to be wise when ignorance is bliss. So the whole world is ignorant. It is folly to be wise. What do you speak? Krishna consciousness. Even our people who have understood what is the importance of Krishna consciousness, yet don't take it seriously. Yet don't take it, what is the importance of how to do it? They think we know it. Why somebody has to tell? Why there is an authority system established by Prabhupada? What is the need for that? There is a need. There is a need. There is a need for constant hearing for our mind. Otherwise, this ocean of material nations, imagine the ocean with this huge waves, and there is this, picture this completely in your mind, and there is one boat which you have found by somehow, which is the most suitable boat. And the most suitable boat is constant hearing and chanting, and there is an oar which you are carrying. And if you are not using that oar, then you are gone. Very beautifully, Prabhupada explains in one of the lectures of this verse, is telling that this boat of devotional practice in the form of hearing and chanting will surely and steadily put us on the progressive spiritual path. So the boat of devotional practice in the form of hearing and chanting will surely and steadily put us on the progressive spiritual path if the oar for rowing is one of constancy. The oar for rowing is one of constancy. Constantly one has to do this. Actually, this point is such an important point. Why it is important? Because in our life, there could be things which can happen which we don't plan or which we don't want, rather. There could be some storms. Right? Could be possible. Could be storms or strong winds. Heavy winds can come, which is in the form of laziness, which is in the form of lack of faith, which is in the form of lack of discipline, which is in the form of complacency, which is in the form of unsuitable environment, difficulty in getting along with people, so on and so forth. But Prabhupada, and this is a recollection by devotee, but if we stick on to the boat and hold on to this oar of constancy, then the boat will move through all these changing tides, leading us to our destination of love of Krishna. But if we get rid of this oar of constancy, then there is every possibility of the current dragging us and gliding us away from this progressive path. Because this is swimming against the current of Maya. That is why the scriptures recommend Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, regular attendance in Bhagavatam classes. Mind needs to hear this. Whatever little Josh we have, whatever this enthusiasm is there, will die down if we don't properly understand what needs to be done, how needs to be done, unless we consult, unless we ask. It'll all go. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Kirtaniya Sada Hari, chanting the names of the Lord constantly. So I want to show something before we close. Let's see. So Prabhupada mentions towards the end of the purport that simple abnegation is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind are described above as the perfect process for the transcendental achievement. All our senses need engagement, starting with our mind. The most important thing is our mind. If we don't give it proper engagement, it is gone. That is why this is called yukta, or the transcendental achievement. I'll come to this. I want to show you for 5-10 minutes something very, very important, because we are coming in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. And if you really want to understand our philosophy, there are a few conversations which has happened in Chaitanya Charitamrita between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, which are of paramount importance, very, very important. So I want to just spend 5 minutes and tell you some important things which I started with, that there are 64 principles of do's and don'ts, which Rupa Goswami mentions, which is also given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he's talking to Sanatana Goswami. Let's just spend some time on that. Let me just show you that. Can you see my screen? Okay, if you see this is in the 22nd chapter. Actually, the purports of all these verses are brilliant, right? But I just want to come here. So this is a conversation which is happening between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. I shall say something about the various practices of devotional service, which is explained in so many ways. I wish to speak briefly of the essential practices. He's talking about essential practices. And if you remember, there are 5 important principles of devotional service which cannot be neglected at all. First is association of devotees, sadhu sangha, because in sadhu sangha, the other principles which are not so important, this 5 out of 64, that means there are 59 which are not so important, but those the essence of those 59 are also there in this 5. Sadhu sangha. Then you have taken one session, what else is there? Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana, the 5th one. Okay.
Bhajana Kriya.
Bhagavad Shravan. Yes, Mataji, you told something?
Bhajana Kriya. No?
Bhajana Kriya, not really. Nam Kirtana, Bhagavad Shravana, then Mathuravas. So there are 5 principles which are very, very important of all this 64. First is sadhu sangha. Actually, in association of devotees, the secret of following, the secret of knowing how to do it in our life can come only when we associate with devotees. It's actually an open secret, but people don't take advantage of it. How do we know practically? Always, you can't get it always right. When you depend on your mind, it is 99.99% telling you wrong things. So sadhu sangha is very important. Sadhu sangha, then nam kirtan, chanting the names of the Lord. Very, very important, but chanting offenselessly, chanting with attention. Madhukani Prabhu is telling it is Surya of Satchidananda. We are associating of Surya of Satchidananda, but he is giving the example. If your hand is covered with gloves and you're keeping it on a heated tawa, what is a tawa? Frying pan, you will not feel the heat. You cannot feel it. So right now our tongue, if it is covered with some polythene or something, the taste of rasgulla will not come. Similarly, the tongue, the holy name is descending, but if we don't know properly how to associate with the holy name, then it will not act. Sadhu Sangha, Namakirtana, Bhagavata Shravana. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day, Nityam Bhagavatam Shravana has so many benefits, so wonderful benefits. Mathura was staying in a place which is like a temple, if not actual Mathura, wherever there is a temple, staying there, close to that, doing things around that temple, and Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana, worshipping the deities. Let us see what are the 64, because 64 after all is a number, right? 64 number is not something big that we can't figure it out. Let's see what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't talk about the 64 here, but let's see. On the path of regulative devotional service, one must observe the following items. First, one must accept a bona fide spiritual master. If somebody thinks I can do my life without taking, the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, forget about it. One must accept a bona fide spiritual master. One must accept initiation from him. One must serve him. One must receive instructions from the spiritual master and make inquiry in order to learn devotional service. One must follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas and follow the directions given by the spiritual master. This is all about spiritual master, right? The importance of having spiritual master. Very beautiful. This verse actually, Guru Padashraya, Diksha Gurura Sevana, Sadharma Siksha Pracha, Sadhu Marganu Gamana. Right? So he's telling Guru Padashraya, must accept a bona fide spiritual master. One must accept initiation from him. One must serve him. One must receive instructions from the spiritual master and make inquiries in order to learn devotional service. One must follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas and follow the directions given by the spiritual master. Then the next steps are one should be prepared to give up everything for Krishna's satisfaction. One should be prepared to give up everything for Krishna's satisfaction. And one should also accept everything for Krishna's satisfaction. One must live in a place where Krishna is present, a city like Vrindavan or Mathura or a Krishna temple. One should acquire a livelihood that is just sufficient to keep body and soul together. One must fast on Ekadashi day. One should worship Dhatri trees. I don't know what Dhatri trees is. Banyan trees, cows, brahmanas, and devotees of the Lord Vishnu. One must worship banyan trees, Dhatri trees, cows, brahmanas, and devotees of Lord Vishnu. One should avoid offenses against devotional service and the holy name. If you don't know, there are offenses against devotional service. There is Dham Aparad, there is Seva Aparad, and then there is Nam Aparad. Dham and Seva Aparad are 32, 64 in numbers, and Nam offenses against holy name are 10 in numbers. So one should avoid offenses against these things. The 12th item is to give up the company of non-devotees, give up the association of non-devotees. If you still have association of non-devotees, forget about it. One should not accept. That is why the Sadhu Sangha comes the first thing in that 5 important things. One should not accept an unlimited number of disciples. One should not partially study many scriptures just to be able to give reference and expand explanations. Don't read partially. See, one should not partially study many scriptures just to be able to give references and expand explanations. One has to study completely. The devotee should treat loss and gain equally. The devotee should not be overwhelmed by lamentation. The devotee should not worship demigods, nor should he disrespect them. Similarly, the devotee should not study or criticize other scriptures. We should not study or criticize. Maybe there could be some Quran, Bible, or whatever it is. You can give references, not necessarily, but at least something should be known. But one should not study or criticize. There is no need to criticize them. Because Prabhupada says ultimately all the scriptures are talking about love of God. In some, the information is more revealed, and in some, it is not. The devotee should not hear Lord Vishnu or his devotees blasphemed. See, they should not hear Lord Vishnu or his devotees blaspheming. Blaspheming a devotee openly, criticizing, or being part of that group where something like this is happening is actually, it takes away bhakti completely from the heart. The devotee should avoid reading and hearing newspapers or mundane books that contain stories of love affairs between men and women or subject palatable to the senses. Neither by mind nor words should the devotees cause anxiety to any living entity, regardless how insignificant he may be. After one is established in devotional service, the positive actions are hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, serving, accepting servitorship, becoming a friend, and surrendering fully. One should also dance before the deity, sing before the deity, open one's mind to the deity. Open one's mind doesn't mean that you go and ask the deities, tomorrow I have an interview. Let in the interview, the interviewer ask questions which are easy, which I can answer. No need to ask this. Or let that person with whom I'm having this relationship, somehow he or she or his or her family member should agree to this relationship and approve our relationship. No need actually. Opening one's mind is basically, telling Krishna that how so many anarthas are there in my heart, inside me, and I don't have the spiritual strength to practice. Give me that spiritual strength. Krishna knows actually what is the good thing for us. But unless we pray, unless we open our heart and tell that these are the anarthas, I'm not able to handle these things in my life. Please give me the strength to handle them. How will we get the mercy? Stand up before the deity and the spiritual master just to show them respect. Offer obeisances to the deity. Stand up before the deity and the spiritual master just to show them respect. Follow the deity or the spiritual master. Visit different places of pilgrimage or go see the deity in the temple. One should circumambulate the temple, recite various prayers, chant softly, chant congregationally, smell the incense and flower garlands offered to the deity, and eat the remnants of food offered to the deity. One should attend arati and festivals. One should attend arati and festivals. Arati is going on. It is for someone else. I'm busy with something else. That's not what it is. One should attend arati and festivals. See the deity. Present what is very dear to oneself to the deity. Present what is very dear to oneself to the deity. What is dear to you, present that to the deity. Present what is very dear to oneself to the deity. Meditate on the deity. Serve those related to the Lord. And then serve those related to the Lord is expanded by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is called Tadiya. Serve those related to the Lord. There are 5 in numbers. Tadiya means the Tulasi leaves, the devotees of Krishna, the birthplace of Krishna, and the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 4, sorry. Tulasi leaves, the deities, the devotees of Krishna, the birthplace of Krishna, and the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. Respect them, Tadiya. Krishna is very eager to see his devotees serve Tulasi, Vaishnavas, Mathura, and Bhagavatam. Then one should perform all endeavors for Krishna. One should look forward to his mercy. One should partake of various ceremonies with devotees, ceremonies like Lord Krishna's birthday, Ramachandra's birthday, etc. One should surrender to Krishna in all respects. One should observe particular vows like Kartika Vrata. These are some of the 64 important items of devotional service. And then this is the one that I was talking about, the 5 most important things: Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtana, Bhagavata Shravana, Mathura Vasa, Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana. One should associate with devotees, chant the holy names of the Lord. These 5 are minimum, and one must do this because this 5 has got the essence of all the 64. Here, Srimad Bhagavatam, reside at Mathura and worship the deity with faith and veneration. All these 5 are important. You can't neglect one. You can't say that, okay, maybe I don't care, I do whatever I like. No, you can't. And then in the next verse, actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, very interestingly, Sakala Sadhana Shrestha E Pancha Anga. So these 5 angas are Sakala Sadhana Shrestha. This is the topmost. Krishna Prema Janamaye E Panchera Alpa Sangha. These 5 limbs of devotional service are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. Even a slight performance. But of course, it is not really the slight performance. Prabhupada explains, and there's a Bhaktivinoda Thakur's quote. I request all of you to read this. Before we close, finally for today's class, I want to show this last slide, and then we will close. So in summary, what we discussed was beautiful verse. Yada viniyatam chittam atmani evavatishthate nispruha sarva kamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. As I said, whenever you find yada, look for tada, or when you see tada, look for yada. So if the following conditions are met, yada viniyatam chittam, first thing which Krishna says, viniyatam chittam, disciplining our mind. disciplining our mind, because mind has activities, disciplining the mental activities. Thinking, feeling, and willing should be for the Supreme Lord. And it has to be done constantly. It's a discipline against the distractions one has to do. If it is constantly not done, it's like digging our own graveyard. So when the yogi, by practice of, okay, so yada viniyatam chittam, first thing, then Krishna says, Atmani evavatishthate. Second thing is to become situated in transcendence, one who's looking inside, who's having the darshan of the Lord, who's focusing on Krishna. Atmani evavatishthate, nispruha sarvakamebhya. Third one, nispruha sarvakamebhya, who's devoid of all material desires. He is said to have attained yoga. Yukta iti uchyate yoga. I'll stop here if you have any questions or comments. Any question? Thirty-two against Dham, 32 against Seva, and then 10 against 60, 74. That comes in the Seva Aparat, if I remember correctly. Devotional.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
This Nama Aparad on top of this 64, Prabhu, or is it part of the 60?
Is there in Nectar of Devotion? You can see it is on top of the 10 offenses against holy name.
Okay, thank you.
Bhakti is simultaneously easy, simultaneously difficult. If we keep our heart simple, uncomplicated, and keep us free from offenses, Bhakti is very nice, very enjoyable. But if we keep it complicated, if we have some duplicity, if we have some cunningness, if we want to make it complicated, it gets really complicated, and you lose the taste, the charm of Bhakti. It becomes very, very difficult. In Nectar of Instructions, there are two instructions. One is in the introduction of the preface, which we had read, that the advancement in spiritual life of a sadhaka, the advancement of a sadhaka in spiritual life is dependent on his attitude. Prabhupada says this is dependent on his attitude. Very important to have the right attitude. In material world, everybody wants to be boss over the other one. There's no question of listening, surrendering, developing this Vaishnava qualities. It's not there. But in Vaishnava community, it is not important how many people know that how good a person you are in terms of your abilities or skills. That's not what it is important. It is important how many Vaishnava qualities you have developed. How many times, when the situation demands, you have let go of your false ego and have listened to the instructions of Guru and Krishna. Then the second important instruction in Nectar of Instruction is one at least should try to come to more of goodness. Goodness is a bare minimum to be able to appreciate, to be able to discriminate, to be able to see, to be able to be interested in transcendental knowledge. One has to come to goodness. If minimum, then the further things can happen. But if somehow a person doesn't come, and it's very unfortunate, it'll not. Then these things will not affect. This will not go. That is why the discipline, the sadhana bhakti is so important. Every anga of our sadhana, which Prabhupada has given, is very important. We must attend Mangalarati. We must chant the names of the Lord in the Brahma Muhurta time as much as possible if you have some practical constraints. We must hear Bhagavatam every day. We must have the darshan of the deity in the evening and attend the aartis. It will bring us to little goodness. If goodness is there, then there is a desire to go past that, to develop those qualities, to have the right attitude, right goal, right mindset to do things. Otherwise, I am in my life somewhere, something I'm doing and come, then I do one service or something in temple and I think I'm doing some very big thing. I don't need to listen. I don't need to care. This is how our life will go and it will continue to go like this. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't have it right now, but it says, many lifetimes we may chant the names of the Lord, yet we remain in this conditioned state if we don't know how to do it properly. Many lifetimes can go. So that is why, in Vaishnava Sangha, even to know that there are offenses against Dham, there are offenses against Seva, where will you get to know about it? How will you get to know about it? So when we do these things properly and take advantage of this, items which is listed not just by Rupa Goswami, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling this to Sanatana Goswami. These are very important things, glimpse of our devotional life. Then we make progress, then we make advancement, then we really feel that transformation within. Then we feel that we are overcoming all those distractions. Then we feel our life is becoming disciplined. There is a purpose and I'm working towards that purpose. So, as I said, this is a very wonderful verse. It happens to be on the first day of our new year. If we really want to think, introspection and repentance is a very important thing in our spiritual life. We may have done so many mistakes. We may have done so many blunders. If somebody is saying that he has never done any mistake or blunders, then he should have not been here. He should have been in Vaikuntha. But it is important to repent, regret. Of course, I should not have done that. This is not expected of me. That repentance, when it comes, then as it is mentioned in Bhagavatam, one of the verses we had seen in first canto, 4th chapter or 3rd chapter, that repentance leads to further advancement. If we think every action of ours is perfect and correct, I don't need any correction, I don't need any this thing, that's a very dangerous situation. You're saying something? Go ahead.
Yes. Prabhu, there are 32 Seva Aparadhas, right? So I just want to know the common one because I am I am just keeping the deities and I am preparing the prasadam and offering. So
we can take this offline. So your deities, what deities are they? What kind of deities you have also decides whether it is a photo or it's a deity. Or so many things are there. So we can take this offline.
Sure.
But if you ask me, my personal request to all of you, actually, if we are well versed with this philosophy, if we know it well, believe me, this will act only for our own benefits. This will help us improve. If we understand what Krishna, what Prabhupada is expecting us to become, if we just understand, maybe we are not able to achieve. It's okay. But if we have an understanding of what is expected of us, then our life is going, it is actually steering in the right direction. And as one of the things which is mentioned, very important to have the control of our mind and words. Words are especially very important. If you keep telling yourself something negative, I can never do this in my life, it will not happen. I have never, I have tried my best and I've never been able to do. Why they are expecting me to do this? I can't change. All these things, if you constantly keep telling yourself, then like a ship has a rudder, which is deciding, which is steering, which is giving the direction to the ship. Similarly, the rudder for our ship-like body is our tongue. And if we keep telling wrong things, or if we keep telling negative things to ourselves repeatedly, then it goes in a negative direction. That is why Sevan Mukhehi Jivvado. It's the devotional service begins with the process. Tongue is the most important thing. Chanting the names of the Lord offenselessly, using the tongue properly, not for gossiping, not for doing some other, Gramya Katha, and utilizing it properly for Krishna's glorification. If we do that, then our life goes in the right direction. Oh, very good. Yeah, actually, in one of the purports or lectures, Prabhupada says systematically and repeatedly. Practice is systematic and repeated repetitions. In the wrong way, we have made all these material habits, these materialistic things. We have, we've been doing that very systematically and repeatedly. We are doing. Now we have to do systematically and repeatedly the spiritual things. Systematically and repeatedly means we have to get up in the morning. We must attend Mangalarati. We must chant 16 rounds of holy names of the Lord every single day. We must hear Bhagavatam. Don't take shortcuts in this. There is no shortcuts. In fact, if somebody is asking, how is your sadhana, you should feel happy. You are accountable. It's not like, somebody has some other different motive to ask you, what's your sadhana? You should feel happy. Yes, Prabhu, I'm struggling here. I'm doing this. I'm not able to do. We should voluntarily feel happy when we are questioned like this. Not that, oh my God, now this is for our benefit, because otherwise our mind is ready to trick us, to give all kinds of justifications. Yesterday night you slept late, something happened in your life, you have worked hard, you should not attend, you should take rest now. And like that, this mind keeps giving one after another excuses, and we are off from the spiritual path. Anyway, these are thoughts for this one. Hare Krishna. So as I said, my laptop has some issues. It went off, but thankfully it went in the time when we finished. Before we close, can I request all of you to come in front of your camera and raise your hands? We will chant once Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and close for today. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरे कृष्णा।